think I'm live. So here we go. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. We're at an extremely powerful, intense conjunction of Saturn, sorry, not conjunction, square of Saturn and Uranus coming up February 17th, 18th. In New Zealand and Australia, it's the 18th, and the rest of the world, almost the rest of the world, it's the 17th of February. It's a huge, huge time. And I'd like to invite you to look at your life from a completely different perspective, to see if you can look at your world in a new way. If you cannot have too microscopic a view of all the things that are going on, but if you can begin to see yourself as part of a much wider network and web of events that's unfolding. I'm very grateful to Lucy for being here. Thank you, Lucy, my wonderful assistant. She really connects everybody online here as my wonderful moderator. Thank you, lovely Lucy. Please be aware that we are still under this Mercury retrograde until the 21st of February. So you may have a feeling of things moving forwards and then stopping. And then, oh yes, things are moving forward and then stop. It's almost as if you've got the accelerator going and the brake pedal at the same time. You may be feeling that. So what I'd like to do today is to look with you at this synodic cycle of Saturn and Uranus so that we can put it into a wider context. This is what I'm wanting to do, so that it feels wider and more expansive rather than constrictive and restrictive. So this whole cycle between Saturn and Uranus lasts about 44 years. And this cycle began in 1988. And in 1988, we had the conjunction of Saturn and Uranus in Sagittarius. And this was the point at which communism was being disbanded in Europe. In 1989, soon after, we had the falling of the Berlin Wall. And this marked a huge change in structures. So this was the beginning, this was the conjunction. Then, in year 2000, 2001, we had the first square. And this is the waxing square. This is the square that's the growing energy. So it's the curve that's going upwards. And this square was when Saturn was in fact in Taurus and Uranus in Aquarius, the opposite signs to where they are now. And this was the time, of course, the turning of the century, a huge time when we had year 2K, where there was a big fear that technology was going to break down and all our systems would be down. And this was another very big time at the close of 1,000 years. Then we had the opposition of these two powerful planets. And the opposition happened in 2008, 2009, right at the time of the global financial crisis, where banks had to be dug out of all the problems that they created for themselves. And this was the opposition when Saturn, let me get this right, Saturn was in Virgo and Uranus in Pisces. Now, all of this year and part of 2022, certainly October, beginning of October 2022, we have this underlying theme now of the second square of these two aspects coming together. Only this time, It's not the rising square that was happening year 2000. Now it is the waning square. And this is Saturn in Taurus, Uranus in Aquarius. So it's a very different energy. And what we're seeing now is it's not going up, the energy coming down. And this is the dissolution, the breaking down of structures. At the time after the Berlin Wall, there was a somewhat, what are we going to rebuild? What are we doing? What can we create together? Now there is the destroying of structures that no longer work, that no longer function for us. And this applies not only globally, but personally. We're in this period of getting rid of anything that is no longer healthy. You might be stuck in various emotional behavior patterns. You might be stuck in a toxic relationship, a toxic work situation that you need to free yourself from in order to move to something new. It's making the way for something new. So the systems are breaking down. We are going to see the breaking down of the economic systems, much as the very few want to hold on to their power. We now have to look as a society, who's benefiting from the proposed changes? Who are the beneficiaries? Who benefits from us being under surveillance all the time? Who benefits from having mandated vaccines? I'm not siding one way or another. I'm just presenting things on the table here. Who benefits if a universal basic income is created? Who benefits if there's a digital economy? In these new structures that we are about to build, and the end of this cycle, let me just sort of fill you in with the picture, is 2032, when we will have the conjunction of Saturn and Uranus in Gemini, asking us what the hell have we learned from all of this tumultuous experience. So this is a time of looking at what are the themes playing out in your life. If you can find where in my chart, where in your chart is Uranus in Taurus, where in your chart is Saturn in Aquarius, see which life areas are being triggered for you. And you might have a planet that is being activated as well. So this will bring up even more for you. And see where you need to break free. So the significant dates this year, February the 17th, 18th, big time where a whole new energy can be released. A whole new force can come free from things that have been held down. So what we're seeing is a very swift events unfolding, swift unfolding events, a swift unfolding of the vaccination program, of digital currencies, of various things that are coming, flying cars, robotics. What are the things that you want and what are the things that you don't want? And how do we avoid polarizing our feelings for one another through these difficulties? What I'm seeing happening with people close around me as well, and please, I'm not advocating one way or another, but the rollout of the vaccines is fine. Yes, many millions of people being vaccinated, okay, but there are equally many people who don't want it. But these people are being made into pariahs by saying they're threatening everybody else by not having the vaccine. So it's hot, it's intense. Saturn Uranus is, I feel, bringing about a breaking point. Yes, there's an extreme energy. There's extreme cold right now, even in Texas. Greece right now is a magic wonderland filled with snow. So we are going to be taken to extremes. You may be being taken to extreme of discomfort. I've been having that with my living situation. Time and again, I'm having to go beyond and say, okay, this is not comfortable, but what else can I do? All the Aquarian energy saying, what else can you do? If this isn't working, let's try something else, or something else, or something else. Then maybe take a break, have a cup of tea, have a cuddle with a teddy. Don't allow the tension to take you out of your center. It's very, very, very intense. And the best thing you can do is not to act precipitously. There's a tendency with this energy to say, I can't stand it anymore. And if you can at least wait until Mercury is direct, when things may become clearer, I would recommend it. So the best way to handle this particular aspect that is going to affect us, again, it hits exactly on June the 14th and again on December the 24th. So the particular degrees are 7 degrees at the moment, 13 degrees, 11 degrees. For those of you who know, if you've got planets at those signs, on those degrees, you are going to feel this even more. So there's the breaking out, and if you can be as flexible as possible, if you can be as adaptable as possible to surprises, shocks, changes, this is going to be, I feel, the best way to handle it. Don't jump at the first opportunity. There'll be a tendency to say, oh, okay, let's do that. Just see if you can hold your ground and hold the tension inside of you, knowing that structures are breaking. And there is going to be some kind of a break point. And a quote here by Marcus Aurelius, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Now, of course, that's bloody easier said than done. Yes, something external's bothering you, and you can do your best to see it from a different viewpoint. Uranus is the planet that will win against Saturn every time. So Uranus is the breakout. Uranus in Taurus. Taurus is the most conventional sign. Uranus, the least conventional planet. So it's the breakout of anything that's conventional. Don't try to be normal at this time. Normal, forget it. Authentic is the way forward. But where are you allowing yourself to go with the herd? And are you really thinking through things for yourself in your life? What's true for you? I think that what I feel, especially with the financial system, is that since 2008, which was the opposition of these planets, the system has just been propped up with fake money, fake everything. How can stock markets be so high at this time? It just doesn't make sense. So there is artificial markets, artificial energies. What's true? What's real? That's what we've got to get to. So check the facts and don't act out of fear. Don't allow yourself to be bamboozled out of fear. I think what we've been doing with the financial markets is just delaying the pain. And a quote by wonderful J.K. Rowling says, numbing the pain for a while will make it worse when you finally feel it. And I think that's what we've been doing. We've been pushing the rubbish along the road. I'm saying that in a nice way because there might be youngsters listening. And it's hitting us in the face. It's going to hit us in the face. So the more you can stay in that uranium place of questioning everything, and as much as possible, not getting too caught up in the emotional distress. Listen to somebody who is in need of listening. Bring calm energy wherever you can. Not easy to do, not at all. Quite in the last couple of days only, New Zealand, Auckland particularly, went into a lockdown. Out of the blue, 3 community cases. The government puts most of the country into a severe lockdown. And we'll know later today, whether it continues or it doesn't. But sudden changes. How are you reacting to it? How are you reacting to the sudden rollout of mandatory procedures? I looked up the word mandatory. Where does it come from? It comes from the word mandare in Latin, which means to command, and comes from the word hand, main, la main, in French, to hand out. So what are you being handed, commanded to do? And what works and what doesn't work? It's big stuff. It really is. And it's triggering a huge amount of stuff that's been latent over the last 12, 13 years. And it has to break. In a waning cycle, this is things coming down, falling down, dissolving. So this is an especially powerful date time, February 17th. Even Dr. Peebles spoke about it, my wonderful Summer Bacon, a very, very pure channel. You really would do well to check her out, summerbacon.com. Lucy, please put it in the link for those who are interested. She channels Dr. Peebles. And he said, if I may quote some of this, that he quoted this date a while ago now, saying that there will be a surge of very powerful energy on the planet with an intense, huge shift. And we may feel, I'm paraphrasing here, hope that's all right, Summer, as though we are learning to walk all over again. It's like the ground under our feet is not steady anymore. And we're having to learn to walk and to move in new ways. But it is an opportunity for Earth's transformation and to bring forth bright light. So it's an exceptionally powerful time. There's a sense of things closing in on us. Yeah, there's things that are closing in. Yeah, there's certain things you can't get away from. Yeah, what's closing in on you? And how can you maybe see that differently? Just thoughts here that I'm giving you. Now, perhaps the most powerful quote I'd like to share with you that truly describes the energies of Saturn and Uranus, these 2 contrasting planets, the planet of boundaries, constriction, and the planet of no boundaries, freedom, and the future and the new, the past, the future. We're straddling these 2 energies. And there will be those traditionalists who want to keep that status quo. And there are those who say, let's break out. It's very polarized. And Einstein said this: everything that is really great and inspiring is created by the individual who can labor in freedom. To me, that is it. That says it. So you've got to work at your freedom. Saturn is about laboring it, really working at it. To build up what I'm doing here, doing my webinars, all this. I love my work. I love the freedom of the work and the joy of the astrology and sharing it with you. And I work really hard at it. Really hard. So it's the joy of the labor that brings the birth to this new freedom, this new social structures that we now have to create with all this Aquarian energy. So it's about you really being the authentic you. We've been put down, held down. You should do this, you shouldn't do that, you must do this, you mustn't do that. We've got to somehow get through that and welcome the individuality and not have that suppressed any longer. And make that something that is encouraged, that is fostered in our new society that we are to build together. So Uranus and Aquarius is going to bring out the truth. And I do think there's going to be a breakout. So if it looks like things are going smoothly, don't expect smooth. Don't expect clear, calm waters. Don't expect that. Say to yourself, what exciting thing is going to happen today? What new things am I going to learn? How can I see this from a different angle? How can I connect more with my fellow brothers and sisters? And I love this quote from Winnie the Pooh, which I think is very pertinent right now. Just because an animal is large, it doesn't mean that he doesn't want kindness. However big Tigger seems to be, remember that he wants kindness just as much as Roo. So remember that every person you meet, no two of us are the same, whether we're fat, thin, tall, whatever color you are, whatever nationality, race you are, we all need kindness. We all need a kind word, a kind thought, and true speaking. And sometimes those two can be confused. Oh, that's a beautiful quote. Thank you, Pohala. Those who prefer security over freedom deserve neither. Ben Franklin. Gosh, that really says this Saturn Uranus square. Thank you for that, Pohala. Security over freedom. Safety, breaking out into something new, into the unknown. But Aquarius rules aviation, it rules flight. That's why we're going to see so much more about space and space travel, space connections, all of that growing over these next years exponentially. But equally from space, we can see our Earth, our beautiful planet Earth, from a different perspective. So see if you can begin to view your world from new angles, new perspectives. Take yourself above it. And that is also for the new systems that we want to create together. Thank you, Gillian, sending kindness to everybody on this feed, everybody on the video. Oh, thank you, April, for joining. Please like the video. Thank you. She's encouraging you to like the video, because more that like it, the more of our brothers and sisters can join us in beginning to use the astrology to empower ourselves, to see where we are in a cycle. And with this knowledge, use it constructively. Lucy, thank you. You are terrific. I'm so lucky to have Lucy. So with this Aquarian energy, Aquarius encourages you to keep your cool. The truth may be spoken. Thank you, Dara. Woo! To keep your cool, even though everything may be boiling around you. And things may be said that don't make you feel very cool inside. Yes, we had a conversation last night, our family, my soul family here, Eckhart and Rochelle. It was a very difficult one. And they said some things that were very, very difficult for me to hear. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Danielle. And it was the truth. And I needed to hear it. So the truth will set you free. And that's true. And it may be uncomfortable. And it may bring up emotions. So, it's an exciting time to be alive. It's a time where we've got an opportunity here to create something entirely new for ourselves. But each one of us must shine in your greatness. You must allow your sun to shine. And if we can encourage each other, even if you don't like it, it's not a question of liking or disliking, just a question of allowing each person to breathe, to be free, and to be the fullest potential that you can be. Is this an easy time? No. Squares are not easy aspects. But people with lots of squares in their natal charts are people who grow through painful experiences, through difficult things. Yeah, they keep growing because they learn, and maybe we can change the dynamic that we don't have to learn through so much pain and suffering anymore. Maybe it can be that if we can build each other and see that we have a global set of challenges here. They are not national. Yes, it's all very well to say, oh, New Zealand's better than the rest of the world. In some ways, maybe, but in some ways not. We're in the soup together. And once you've put things in the soup, you can't say, oops, sorry, I put a bit too much salt in there. Let me see if I can get those grains of salt out. No, you can't. So what kind of a soup are we creating together? Nation borders have to come down. Separation between nations has to go. It's got to open, it's got to break. It's too constrictive. We're not the same. That's wonderful, Kay Wood. We're not the same, and to rejoice in our differences and stand strong against people who want to take our freedom. Okay, thank you for your sharing there. So don't let our differences separate us. Let our differences enhance the tastiness of the soup that we're creating. But your ingredient, you are important. We're jumping off a cliff. Absolutely right. We really are, Alessandra. We are jumping into the unknown. The thing is, we're always really jumping into the unknown. We don't realize it. Now we can see it. We can see it unfolding. So nature is going to certainly bring quite a few tremors and changes. We can see that with the extremes in climate. We're going to have to work with our planet Earth, Uranus in Taurus. Mother Nature is shaking us up. But I think we can have a new appreciation for Mother Nature, a new appreciation for what we have, and cleanse the toxicity. The COVID is showing us that there's just been an over-toxicity in our air, in our waters, in all the elements. If we look at the elements, because the elements are so fundamental to astrology. I've been covering this not only in my book, The Elements, Physical and Metaphysical Astrology, but also on my latest series of beginners webinars, because the elements are fundamental to each one of us, and our elemental balance, the ancients talked about this, has to be in balance. Yeah. Deborah Silverman, a wonderful astrologer I really admire. She's very fiery, ton of fire. But she talks about, you know, we're in the womb for 9 months. We're in water. Yes. And we can't live without water. So the water element has to be present and has to be balanced. And water is the part of you that lives in silence. Yeah, you're in the womb, it's silent. All your needs are taken care of, and you have to trust. This is the water element. Then we've got, you come into the world and you take a breath, and that's the air element. And we can't live without air. So and then for the first 18 or so years of your life, you're working through that air element, which is learning and studying and learning language and learning how to communicate and getting an education and all of that. And then you go from around 18, 20 to about 60 so, and you're in the earth element. You're learning how to use money and resources. And you need earth, you need for food, for sustenance. We can't live without that element. And then you come towards the later end of life and you go into the fire element. Yes, you're about to burn off and you burn it all off and you come to the fun time, if you so choose. Yes, it's the fun time when you've done all those things. But the important thing to see is that we've toxified our waters, the water energy, our precious earth, our precious air, the fires that have been wildfires that we've had, burning, the great heat that we've had, extremes of temperature. And so our elemental balance on the planet is off balance. And this can be with you personally. It's like driving a car. The 4 tires have to be in balance and then you'll have a smooth ride. But if one of your tires is flat, you're not going very far. And if 2 of them are off, you're going to have a very bumpy ride. So it's important at this time to get your elemental balance as even as you can. So your air, the water balance means you need time in silence. You need to learn how to trust, faith, to nurture, to be kind, to be soft, to be gentle. The inner world, that's important to be in balance. Then your earth world, yes, the earth part of you, your responsibilities, how you're dealing with finance, with money. Have you got food? Have you got shelter? Have you got the physical things in your life? Do you know how to manage that? Are you resilient there to bring that into balance? Then the air element. The air element has to do with your mind and your learning and getting to the truth and getting to the knowledge, because knowledge is power. And developing that part of you. Is your mind completely overactive, or are you not thinking well enough for yourself? So this needs to come into balance. And then we've got the fire element. If you're just going along with the herd and you've not got any fire in you, if you haven't got any joy in you, if you haven't got any zest for life, then you're lacking the fire element. And that needs to come into balance for you. So these 4 elements that we're working with need to come into balance in our external world, where we've created toxicity, and in the internal world. And if we can do that, as we allow certain structures to crumble, which will be very unbalancing, if you can do this and keep those elements in balance, you will be able to ride through these times as a balanced human being, and you'll be able to help many along the path. Whew. And the ether element, Natalia is saying, everything that surrounds us is not touchable. Yeah, air, ether, I would sort of call it, that probably comes under air as well in the traditional astrology. So this is how I'm sort of pulling these ties together. Yeah, and right now in the heavens, there is much air and earth. So we're dealing with air, which is knowledge. Excuse me. Every day there's new information coming out about the vaccines, about COVID, about climate, about the economy. Do this, do that, do the other. You must get your air element in balance. Excuse me. And the earth element, that's being shaken up. All our security, all these small businesses going into liquidation. Businesses being boarded up, and yet other companies making a huge amount of profit around the vaccines, around all sorts of different things. So it's about how can you create internal balance by becoming aware of which element is lacking, or elements are out of balance for you at the moment, and then working at bringing them into balance. So if you're feeling lethargic, if you're feeling as though you haven't got much energy, you need some fire element. So burn something, burn some oils, do something that burns some incense, watch a funny movie, laugh, do some hearty yoga laughing, whatever it is to bring that uplifting, fiery energy into you. It's an up stretching, even stretching and looking upwards will help bring in that fiery energy. Maybe you're lacking in water energy and you can't be peaceful. So warm water, warm baths, warm soothing, anything that's soothing. So this is really the things to be looking at, I feel, that will help us deal with this aspect in a constructive way. These are constructive things that you can do. I think music is very healing at this time. Very, very healing. I'm hoping that I've chosen something this time to share with you. It may get thrown off, but for those of you listening now may hear it. Since we've got all this Aquarian energy, and we've got Neptune in Pisces, which is the planet that's in rulership right now, and Neptune in Pisces is very much about soothing. Where is the soothing? There's a lot of rough sort of bashing and battering going on, and where can we soothe? Yeah. So what I'd like to just share with you is one of my favorite composers, Schubert, classical composer, an Aquarian, played by Jacqueline Dupré, also an Aquarian, to give you the flavor of the Aquarians. And some of you may know this as the end cycle of when your washing machine says that your washing is ready. But I'd just like to say thank you to those of you who have contributed today online. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that greatly, to supporting this channel. Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, April. Thank you to those of you who are just generously always sending me messages, comments. I really appreciate you. And from Teddy, And me here in New Zealand, I'm sending you much love. And I hope this soothes you, and I hope you can bring your elements into a perfect balance.